I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us here on Closing Arguments. It was an emotional day today here on Court TV, watching what was happening in Michigan. It's the case involving the parents of the Oxford school shooter. Together, they were inside the courtroom. They had separate trials, but today was Judgment Day, sentencing day. Both of them looking for an opportunity to get out. They've been locked up for a couple of years now. They want time served. They want to be on the outside. But today was about more than just these two. Rightfully so. It was bigger than that, much bigger. Today was about a message that is being sent to parents coast to coast. If you have children, you need to understand what's going on in their lives. If your children need help and are reaching out to you, you need to help them. If you have a weapon in your home, you need to secure that weapon. If your child is acting out in school, you need to be transparent with school officials and let them know what's going on in your child's life. If your child is drawing pictures of guns and blood and writes a note saying, "Help me," help your child. That was the message today. And because these parents didn't help their child, because these parents were not transparent, because these parents wrapped everything up in 12 minutes and went on their way, families suffered, children died. And today, on Judgment Day, for these parents who are being held responsible for the deaths of the children murdered by their son, these families, these victims, got to speak.
My mind keeps going back to something during the trials. Something that is almost on repeat, like a broken record. It's something as a mother I can't understand, and honestly, I don't think any mother would understand. It was when Jennifer said it wouldn't do anything different. I'm putting a little emphasis on different, as I know life throws us things that are out of our control. But life takes turns and eventually puts them back in our control. Like giving you a hint when something needs to change. I want to compare a few things to see through my perspective, as I know things are different about the events and how we see them from the events on November 30th. While your son was hearing voices and asking for help, I was helping Madison pick out her senior classes. While you were purchasing a gun for your son and leaving it unlocked, I was helping her finish her college essays. While you dropped him off at school upset that he was failing class, I texted Madison, "Drive safe, it's slick outside, have a good day." When you got a call to meet at the school about your son and how it interfered with your day, I was rearranging my schedule so I could take Madison to get her oil changed for the first time. When you left without hesitation and not taking him home, I was worried if she'd be okay driving in the first snowfall of the season and if she brought a coat. When you walked out of the office with a steady pace after hearing an active shooter, I ran from my home and started driving, trying not to break the law. When you were on the phone for 10 minutes with each other trying to figure out where the gun was, I was on the phone with her father and family trying to figure out where she was. I had to get answers after her death. Watching the video, hearing testimony on how your son executed my daughter, watching him put the gun to her head as she covered her head and pulled the trigger, seeing pictures of her laying in her own pool of blood, knowing her body sat there for hours, that rigor mortis had already started to set in, so that when I identified her, her body was in a state I couldn't imagine. Hearing her sister scream over and over again night after night, watching her family and her friends fall apart. You created all of this. You created your son's life, which then allowed this to be his path, which should be yours as well. You don't get to look away. You don't get to cry. I didn't get that choice. You failed as parents. The punishment that you face will never be enough. It will never bring her back. It will never be a loss that you have suffered, and it will never heal the pain.
Justin was brave, spending his final moments protecting a fellow student. He was hardworking, a lettered athlete, a top honor student. He was kind and inclusive to all. He was full of love and joy. His future was so very bright and full of possibilities. His passing has touched so many family members, friends, students, and the community in general. The ripple effects of both James and Jennifer's failures to act have devastated us all. This tragedy was completely preventable. If only they had done something, Your Honor, anything, to shift the course of events on November 30th, then our four angels would be here today, and Justin would be getting ready to celebrate his 20th birthday on the 18th of this month. What I would like to share with the shooter's parents is an example of what love looks like between a mother and her son. This is what Justin wrote to me on one of the last birthdays that we celebrated together. Dear Mom, words cannot describe how thankful I am for you. You have been nothing but an amazing mother for as long as I can remember. Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for showing me what it's like to never give up. You inspire me to do better each and every day. I love you so much. Love, Justin. It is devastating and heartbreaking that it doesn't appear that either of you cherished or even wanted your son. But I wholeheartedly wanted and cherished mine.
With Jennifer, the thing that resonates most is that she stated that even knowing what she knew now, she still wouldn't have changed a thing. I almost died when she said that. 4 precious lives were lost at the hands of her son by means that she helped provide. She saw the drawing of murder drawn with the hands of her son. She sat and heard the request of the counselor and did nothing. And she still says that she wouldn't have changed a thing. I just don't understand how someone can be that heartless to make a statement like that. The blood of our children is on your hands too. And when the verdict was being read, he sat there and shook his head in total disagreement, as if to suggest that the jury was wrong and that there were no grounds for a guilty verdict. I was dumbfounded to see him shake his head with such disbelief, an action that only suggests that he truly believes he did nothing wrong. How could you possibly think that? 4 precious lives were lost at the hands of your son.
Our Japanese grandma would often worry about anything bad happening to us because she knew how dangerous it is here compared to Japan. She told me one FaceTime that Hana would respond with a laugh, saying, "Don't worry, I'm a fast runner. I'll outrun them." It wasn't possible for Hana to outrun the bullets bought by you, Jennifer Crumbley, which were fired by the 9mm Sig Sauer that you, James, gifted to your son. Both used to murder Hana, Justin, Tate, and Madison. The fact is, no matter what you try to make yourself believe, Jennifer, you did fail as a parent, both of you. To love and to be loved, that is the human experience. It was up to you guys to show your son that. Instead of giving quality time and compassion, you gift your son a gun you knew causes extraordinary damage. There's a reason your kid didn't use the other 2 firearms or the .22 ammunition you own. I believe your actions cannot even be confined into the word failure. Your mistakes created our everlasting nightmare. So yes, you are still a danger to society because even after serving 2 years, you have yet to admit to your wrongdoings. And we know that when we do not learn from our mistakes, we repeat history. You call yourself a victim. The difference between you and Hannah, Justin, Tate, and Madison, you and my family, you and all the students there that day, is that we didn't have a hand in causing this. You caused the most cruel thing I could ever imagine. You guys made loving Hannah so painful. That is not a narrative, that is reality. For that, unless you have a time machine or the ability to stop time, there is no existing punishment or rehabilitation that will ever be enough. Because there is no way that the one life I now have to live without Hannah, my little sister, my best friend, my other half. To me, that makes the maximum sentence being 15 years too short. Hannah didn't even have 15 years to live.
The defendants, through their choices, through their indifference and gross negligence, enabled their son to murder my daughter, Hannah, and 3 other children. They chose to stay quiet. They chose to ignore the warning signs. And now, as we've heard through all of the objections, they continue to choose to blame everyone but themselves. Every single objection, I think, that the council said this morning put the blame somewhere else, their son, not them. I stood before the court several months ago and spoke about the impact that Hannah's murder had on myself and my family. Nothing has changed since then. It's impossible for me to truly convey the complete impact of my daughter's loss. Hannah's murder has destroyed a large portion of my very soul. I've said these words before. It's still the truth. I remain a shell of the person that I used to be. I think of her and miss her constantly.
For our family, it's not time to celebrate. This tragedy has taken an incredible toll on our family. So our family's not going to give the Crumbley family a second of our time up here. It's time to turn our focus now. This is the low-hanging fruit. Now it's time to turn our focus to Oxford schools who played a role in this tragedy.
It is so devastating what happened. Now, Jennifer Crumbley responded. She made that statement that I wouldn't have done anything differently. She tried to explain that today. We're going to take a listen to that, and then James Crumbley, and then you'll hear the judge deliver justice.
The driving weight this has taken on my heart and soul cannot be expressed into words. Just as I know there is nothing I can say that's going to ease the pain and suffering of the victims and their families. There's a quote I heard that rang true. Grief. For those of you who understand, no explanation is needed. And for those of us who do not, no description is possible. I've taken countless nights of lament over the anguish and shame I carry, knowing what my son did, the harm he caused to innocent lives, the families, and to the entire Oxford community. I pray all the victims are the embodiment of God's mercy and peace, and that he heals your broken spirits. When I was on the stand, I was asked if I would have done anything different. I was horrified to learn my answer I would not have was completely misunderstood. That answer is true because my son did seem so normal. I didn't have a reason to do anything different. This was not something I foresaw. That was the intention of my answer and how I interpreted the question. With the benefit of hindsight and the information I have now, my answer would be drastically different. If I even thought my son could be capable of crimes like these, things would have absolutely been different.
I understand my words are not going to bring any comfort. I understand that they're not going to relieve any pain. And quite frankly, they probably just don't believe me. However, I really want the families of Madison Baldwin, Hannah St. Juliana, Kate Meyer, Mir, and Justin Schilling to know how truly sorry I am and how devastated I was when I heard what happened to them. I have cried for you and the loss of your children more times than I can count. I know your pain and loss will never go away. Part of you will be missing forever. But please know that I am truly very sorry. I am sorry for your loss as a result of what my son did. I cannot express how much I wish that I had known what was going on with him or what was going to happen. Because I absolutely would have done a lot of things differently.
Parents are not expected to be psychic. But these convictions are not about poor parenting. These convictions confirm repeated acts or lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train. About repeatedly ignoring things that would make a reasonable person feel the hair on the back of their neck stand up. Opportunity knocked over and over again, louder and louder, and was ignored. No one answered, and these two people should have and sure didn't. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation reports. I am, of course, sadly familiar with the facts and circumstances of these cases, as well as those surrounding each defendant. The advisory sentencing guidelines in this matter do not capture the catastrophic impact of the acts or inaction in these matters. The guidelines do not take into account the complete lack of insight both defendants have for their behavior to this very day. The guidelines do not account for the severity of the circumstances in this matter. The guidelines ignore the survivors, including shooting victims Phoebe Arthur, Elijah Mueller, Riley Franz, Kylie Osage, John Asciuto, Molly Darnell, and Aiden Watson. They were deeply wounded, both physically and emotionally. In addition to the 7 wounded, each of the defendants' gross negligence has caused unimaginable suffering to hundreds of others as a result of what happened that day. Each act or inaction created a ripple effect. Therefore, an out-of-guidelines sentence is appropriate and proportional. With regard to Jennifer Crumbley, it is the sentence of this court, Ms. Crumbley, that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. You will have credit for 858 days. As to defendant James Crumbley, it is the sentence of this court that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections, that you receive credit for 858 days.
There they are, Tate, Madison, Hannah, and Justin. 4 young lives taken. But the question tonight, after everything that has happened, was justice served today? When we come back, we'll bring in our think tank. They are waiting. Rick, Ann, and Michael will answer that question for us when we come back.
We are underway in the trial of doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Logan. I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
It's time for the whole truth to come out. It's time to learn from this, from the purchase of the gun to the response. That's when real change happens, is when we can look at something and we can evaluate it, apply lessons learned. That's when real change happens. Is Hannah St. Juliana's family ready for the truth? Justin Schilling's family ready to hear the truth? Nicole Baldwin's family ready to hear the truth? Tate Mears' family's ready to hear the truth. Quit denying us that.
Justice. I talk about justice all the time on this show, and to me, justice is the truth. When a case is brought inside our courtroom, when charges are brought or someone is sued, every trial that we cover is a search for the truth. As a prosecutor, that is your ethical obligation to get justice, which is the truth. And there you have Tate's father wanting the whole truth, like he hasn't gotten it yet. James Crumbley, who today was sentenced, in his statement today, addressed that statement. It was a strange moment. Take a look.
I also want to address one last thing. And that's to what Tate Mears' dad said. It is time that we all know the truth. We have been prohibited from telling the whole truth. The whole truth has not been told. And I'm with you, Mr. Meir. I too want the truth. Because you have not had it. You have not had the truth at all. The truth has not been presented to you.
One of the few unscripted moments of the day there from James Crumbley. The whole truth. And obviously everyone's talking about the school and the school's role in all of this. So let me bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Seattle, Washington, trial attorney, fellow of the American College Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner. Also with us in West Palm Beach, Florida, trial attorney, former police lieutenant Rick King. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Michael Sterling. The whole truth, right? So the school was not criminally charged here. So here's the question. Was justice served today? As the criminal chapters of this whole case have closed, was justice served, Ann Bremner?
Well, I was thinking, Clarence Darrow said there's no justice inside or outside of court. I mean, I don't think justice was served. And I hated what James Crumbley just said. That was ridiculous. About not being able to speak the truth. This whole thing's horrific. And there should have been far longer sentences. Far longer. I mean, this is a case, not a first impression, but a new one with parents being found responsible for a school shooter and shooting. But at least the families were able to speak. But what an absolute tragedy and travesty. Just, my heart just bleeds for those families.
Rick King, has justice been served here? Did the public, did the families get the whole truth?
I agree with Ann in the sense that justice was not served. But Vinnie, I'm going to be an outlier in this, I think, because here's what I really believe. I believe that while those families, that their story is heartbreaking and they will never recover from what happened, I also believe that there was enough There was enough blame to go around. And I don't think blame rested squarely on the shoulders of the Crumbleys. I think blame rests with the school. I think blame rests with the people who responded. You don't go to a school and have a 12-minute meeting and then leave when this is going on. And whether that's the Crumbleys or that's the school, I really can't tell you. But I know that in 12 minutes, you couldn't accomplish what needed to be accomplished at that time. And how do we send this kid back to school with these images and what he says without searching his locker, his backpack, knowing that he was looking to buy ammo, meaning, I mean, if you just do the reach, he may have a gun. He's looking for ammo only. He didn't look for a gun just for ammo. So I feel like if there's blame to be meted out here, the school gets some, the officers that responded get some, and certainly the Crumbleys didn't do what they needed to do as parents. But you don't get a manual when you take that kid home from the hospital, and there's no IQ test to have children. And so I'm just concerned about where we're going with this, where this takes us in the future.
Michael Sterling, was justice served today?
That's a good question, Vinny. I think that'll be for the appeals court to decide if justice was served today. Because it was a case of first impression, because of the number of issues that were raised, a lot of the evidence that wasn't presented, some evidence that was presented, because of the prosecution interspersing that they felt personally offended by things the Crumbleys did, and basically saying the prosecutors felt personally attacked by things the Crumbleys did by interspersing themselves into it. I think it's going to be for the appeals court to decide. And I'll tell you, Vinny, this case is like one of those cases that I when I knew we were talking about this tonight, I was going back and forth, not sure what to say, because this is one of those cases that confounds us because it is a case of first impression, right? The question is this just bad? Is it bad parenting? Does that hold you criminally responsible? Did what they do rise to such a level that they could have prevented it? Because a lot of times, even if you get the best of help, even if you'd have done everything right, there's a possibility you could not have prevented it. And you just never know. And, I'm someone, Vinny, who was in a situation where when I was trying cases as a federal prosecutor, my brother was on trial for murder, raised in the same house, grew up together, same parents, same everything. And one of us went one way and one of us went in a different direction. So it's very personal to me because I would hate for somebody to say my mom was a bad parent, because my brother did something or was, found guilty of doing something that was completely against everything we were raised to do, everything we were raised to believe. While I went one direction, he went another direction. So I tell you, Vinny, because of the personal nature of how this, of how I looked at this, how it's affected me, because of things that's happened in my personal life, I'll tell you, this case really, really was one that left me torn, both morally and legally.
Well, the legal part of it, I think you're right. Obviously, they're going to appeal not only the sentence, but the verdict as well. And this is an issue because we've never been here before, but the message is loud today to parents coast to coast about your responsibilities and where prosecutors are going to go in school shootings in holding people responsible. I've heard over and over again people say this is a very unique case, but when you dig into the facts of this school shooting and other school shootings, it's not quite as unique. There always, not always, but 90% of the time, there are signs. There are signs in different places for different people. And the question is, where is the line? And right now, the line has been drawn with this case and the Crumbleys. We'll see what appellate courts do with it. But right now, everyone's on notice. Your child's in trouble, your child's looking for help, you better do something. If you have a weapon at home, you better make sure it is legally secured. If you get called down to the school because there's a problem, don't be in a rush to leave. You've got to figure out what's going on, because that's where the line was drawn in this case. I want to play one more thing for you. This was one of the sisters of one of the victims who was giving a victim impact statement. And at the moment, it appears like she is responding to what she is seeing from counsel table. Let's take a listen.
Jennifer, you stated that even after knowing everything you know now, you wouldn't do anything different. I cannot fathom that. I would do anything to hear her footsteps coming up the stairs. You don't have to roll your eyes, it's on video that she said that.
Wow. Wow. I'm just going to leave it there because we don't have time to get into that. But Ann Bremner, Rick King, Michael Sterling staying with us up next. Tomorrow is day one in the Doomsday Prophet death penalty trial. What will Chad Daybell's attorney tell this jury?
From the get-go, he was quiet, soft-spoken, humble, had sort of a quirky, fun personality, a humor of his own, but overall, just a humble, quiet sort of temperament about him. It's been a surprise to me to learn some of the things I hear about this Chad Daybell, who I thought was my friend, and I'm getting two very different stories, my own experience with him and then this whole different side. And that's been something interesting to wrestle with.
What happened to Chad Daybell? How did he go from a simple gravedigger to an accused mass killer here? Here he is at one of his meetings, had some followers. Seems like a lot of them were ladies. Oh, there's a couple guys also with his doomsday prophets, Chad Daybell. So this is a case where he's charged with 3 murders. 2 children of his new wife, Lori, and his original wife, the one he's married to, the one he had a family with. Matt Johnson is in Boise, Idaho, and has the latest from the courthouse for us tonight.
Hey, Vinny, the mood is different here at the Ada County Courthouse here in Boise, where there will be opening statements early tomorrow morning. Several years in the making to get to this point, and the victims' families tell me they're ready. How are you preparing for the next 8-10 weeks? And it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, but I don't anticipate it being as rigorous, emotionally involved as it was with Lori's trial. So I'm hoping that that comes to fruition with us. I went through, and Kay went through, and so many other people went through extremely hard times, mentally, psychologically, depressive. And so I feel like now that, you know, we fought this battle. We lived through this battle. And I just feel like that it's like I said in the last time we were together, guys, just give me a fair, honest, rightful trial. That's all I ask for.
Larry Woodcock preparing for what could be an 8 to 10 week long trial at the same courthouse where Doomsday Cult mom Lori Vallow was convicted last year. The length of testimony, one of the many differences between Lori and Chad's trials. The Doomsday Prophet is accused of killing his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and Lori's youngest kids, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. The other differences include this. Chad's trial will be televised. He faces an additional murder charge for his wife, Tammy, and he also faces the death penalty if convicted. Daybell has a different defense attorney, John Pryor, but faces the same prosecutors who said this during opening statements of Lori's trial.
Money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. The defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, used money, power, and sex, or the promise of those things, to get what she wanted.
And Vinny, 18 people will hear the case. That includes 12 jurors and 6 alternates. Of those, 10 men and 8 women. That's the very latest from the Ada County Courthouse here in Boise, Idaho. I'll send it back to you, Vinny.
Matt Johnson getting ready for all of it. Yep, opening statements begin tomorrow morning right here on your front row seat to justice. Let's bring back in the think tank. Ann Bremner, Rick King, Michael Sterling. Rick King, what is John Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney? What does he say tomorrow? Does he change the game tomorrow?
You know what he says? Exactly what they said. Money, power, and sex. This case is about how Lori Daybell used her money, used her abilities to get money, power, and sex from Chad to get what she wanted. I used their same statement against him in this because that's what they said in Lori's trial.
Michael, what do you expect? Is there a way for John Pryor to turn this upside down? He knows what the prosecution is going to put in there.
Where there's a will, there's a way, Vinny. And a good defense attorney is going to do everything they can and throw the prosecution's words, in Rick's point, throw the prosecution's words back at them and put it all on Lori. She was the mastermind. She was the one leading this. She was doing this. This was all Lori's doing, and Chad had no idea what she was up to when it came to these to these incidents. So they're going to have to, if they've got a chance, they're going to have to put this on Lori.
Ann Bremner, what do you expect to hear tomorrow? Do you expect to hear a game-changing opening statement from John Pryor?
I don't know if it's game-changing. I agree with Rick and Michael in terms of, where they're probably going to go with this. I mean, they'll probably he'll stand up and point at Chad and say, I mean, can you imagine? He looks like Pillsbury Doughboy. I mean, he's a man of God. I mean, I said good intentions. I mean, look at this guy. And then you look at Lori and basically what she was up to. And I don't know if it's a game changer, but it's what they've got to do. I mean, you basically got to put it right back on her. He was, ensorcelled by this woman and was, to a certain extent doing her bidding, but then his whole demise is because of that woman right there. And that's why he's in this chair.
We only have 20 seconds left. Rick, the death of Tammy. I think that's the most important part of this case for Chad Daybell. Does he say, I didn't murder her, or does he say she wasn't murdered at all? She died of natural causes.
I think he's got to stick with the story that he led with back in the day. This is a natural cause thing. They dug it up. They made this up just to try to make the other case stronger.
Wow. I don't like that coincidence, though. That's a tough coincidence to sell. All right, fasten the seatbelts, folks. Up next.
In tonight's Tank Takes, a naked Florida man is found inside a garbage can on the street, and he claims he didn't think it was illegal. And tonight we're wondering, was this an Oscar-worthy performance? Get it? Oscar-worthy?
There was pounding on the door. Bang, bang, bang.
He said that we'd seen his face and there was no way that he could ever let us go.
I survived because I'm a born fighter.
I Survived. Next on Court TV.
He is an abuser.
She clocked me in the jaw.
It was a shocking story.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Weekdays 4 to 8 on Court TV Legendary Trials. Stream with your favorite app or find out how to watch on CourtTV.com.
Welcome back. Time for tonight's Tank Takes, where we take a look at the world of crime and justice and all those stories that we save for the end, because we do. Still with us, our think tank, Ann Bremner, Rick King, and Michael Sterling. Are you ready?
Ready.
Let's get to it. First story, I'm calling this one Dead Beat Dad. A man from Kentucky used some stolen identities to create a fake death certificate for himself to be listed as dead. He posed as a physician to gain access to online death registry systems. He apparently faked his own death here to avoid paying child support. And tonight I'm wondering, Michael Sterling, is he dead to his kid now?
At least for a while, because that federal plea agreement included an aggravated identity theft charge, which tacks on an additional mandatory 2 years. So he's going to be gone for a while.
And Bremner, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, anyone in that family, he'd be like dead to me. I mean, but he's smart. That's the one thing. He's got some brains, so hopefully the kids inherited the brains.
Rick, you agree?
He's a Kentucky man, so I don't know if I'm really qualified to talk about this case or not.
Okay, then let's get to our next story. I'm calling this one Trashed. A man who is from that state that's, shaped like that, called Florida, has been arrested after he was found apparently under the influence, drunk and naked in a trash can. Second time. He said, he told the officer he thought he's allowed to be drunk and naked in a trash can. So I'm wondering, Rick, was this an Oscar-worthy performance? You get it? Oscar-worthy?
I get it. And let me tell you, I would love to sit here with you all and talk about the inappropriateness of the charges in this case. But I'm going to tell you, he must just love trash, like my man Oscar.
There you go. Ann Bremner, your thoughts?
I don't know why it would be illegal. I mean, he's all kind of covered up. Isn't it like the man in the barrel? Yeah, okay, so he was right. So he's done it twice.
Michael Sterling.
Florida.
Does it make you want to move to Florida, first of all?
No. But if he was destitute, Vinny, if he was destitute and this was serving as his home, he's allowed to be drunk in his home naked.
Bingo. Look at this. They all have defenses
anyway.
for the Florida man tonight. All right. Final story tonight. I'm calling this one Goat Napped. Family had a goat named Jeffrey. Jeffrey was stolen, goat napped. And then apparently 2 hours away, there was a goat spotted on a bridge. And rescue workers there, you see the goat? Scared to death. A very precarious situation for Jeffrey. But the great news is the rescue workers able to save this goat, or the owners believe it's Jeffrey. But there he is, I don't even know how he got up there. But you know what the question is tonight, though? Rick King, who's the real GOAT?
Who's the real GOAT?
Jordan
I knew it was coming.
or LeBron? Who is it?
Jordan all day. Jordan all day.
Michael, do you concur?
Yeah, I don't think in our demographic, you're not going to get us to say anything other than Michael Jordan.
Ann Bremner, you have a vote in all this.
I guess it's unanimous. I don't know. But I love that goat. I feel so bad for him.
Well, the good
Too bad
news...
he's not a mountain goat.
Yeah, Jeffrey is safe tonight, and Michael Jordan is the GOAT. You can DM me if you disagree. Jeffrey Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Oh, that's right.
They named the GOAT after him.
All right, great job, Ann Bremner, Rick King, Michael Sterling. Thank you so much. We'll see you again really, really soon. Before we go tonight, folks, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child. This is Sierra Kaylee Asher. Sierra, just 17 years old, missing out of Pineville, Kentucky. Maybe in the company of an adult male. If you see Sierra, please pick up the phone, call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Pineville Police Department in the state of Kentucky. Please take a look. If you see her, make that call. Let's try to get Sierra to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.